Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are listening around the world and watching, for that matter. I'm Robert Johnson, your host of the Build It Better podcast, powered by FRAMECAD. Welcome back to part 2 of our series with Joe Trednic, who is the president and CEO of Profab and Framecor, an Arizona-based FRAMECAD manufacturer and general contractor. If you caught the first episode, you are in for a treat for part 2. If you haven't caught the first episode, hit that pause button, go back and listen to that first episode, and then join us for this one. We will continue to discuss some of the exciting things that Joe and his team have done and are working on, and some of the insights into what's happening in the future. Appreciate you joining us again, and promise that this one will be every bit as exciting as the first one. So let's move on and let's talk with Joe. Okay, back to multifamily mid-rise construction.
Okay.
It's a different animal than that single-family rental.
It is, 100%.
Load-bearing, full load-bearing partition systems.
Yes.
Floor trusses and roof trusses.
Both, yes.
Yeah. So, when you work in the residential world and you think about building multifamily, when you really do one the first time and you get to walk through that building that is 100% cold form steel that you rolled on a machine, and I'm going to get in trouble, that you created in a system. There we go.
Yes.
Machine is a dirty word. It's not only is it really cool, but I can tell you that the feedback that I got from general contractors, subcontractors, owners, developers, the people that do it and see it have been like, I'm not going to build with anything else.
No.
I don't know why I didn't do it earlier. I'm not going to change. Now I'm going to take those efficiencies that I learned in this one, and I'm just going to roll it into the next one.
Yeah.
And that's where they really start increasing that return on their investment.
They do, and the quickest way to get them to realize how much better it is you take them to a common area where there's a long hallway. You have them sight that line of steel. I mean, it's laser straight. Anybody that's built a hotel or an apartment complex out of wood, when I sight my common area walls out of wood, I'm like, oh my God, we got to shave this, we got to shim this, we've got to do this, and then your drywall looks like crud.
Yeah,
and you have to be a perfectionist when you're doing this kind of stuff. So then it never becomes perfect in my mind.
Right.
But when you hang your rock on your steel walls, it's perfect every time.
I mean, we've all driven by these multifamily projects on the side of the road, and lumber has been outside for months.
Yes.
And it's just going back to nature.
Yeah.
And so you pick that up, and they're going to go lay it on a slab and start building walls.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And then then it's framed, and then it sits there for months or weeks before it gets dried in. So there's so much more. We live in a country that has a very powerful wood lobby, lumber lobby.
Oh yeah.
And it is going to be a fight for quite some time to make that shift. But I think what we're seeing now is with natural disasters, with fires, with earthquakes, with things that are happening, it's even exposing more and more benefits of building. Now, I say it to people all the time, and they go, okay, if you're in Southern California and there's a forest fire and you've got a wood house and a steel house, they're both going to be destroyed. Yep, absolutely they are. The people in the steel house, light gauge steel, are going to be able to get out alive.
Yeah.
The people in the wood house are going to be burned alive.
Yeah.
And in many cases, you're going to still have a structure that you can do something with. Now, depending on the severity of the heat and twisting and all that stuff that goes into it. But it's that's what I tell people. If you think about building a home for your loved one, would you rather put them in a home that's can burn or a home that's not going to burn?
Yeah.
So when you get to looking at things like that, it kind of puts a different perspective on it. But what we're seeing is municipalities are starting to see it and changing building codes.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a real game changer for the light gauge steel people.
I totally agree with you. I think it will be a big differentiator. You know, there's a real world example too on that Elkwood project in Flagstaff. Our steel number was slightly higher than the wood framing number that was quoted. However, when you factored in the insurance savings, we were actually, I think, almost dead nuts onto wood.
Yeah. So it is definitely, and thank you for jumping back in that, it's definitely a pro forma look,
Yes.
not a line item look.
Right.
And a general contractor, listen, I can't tell you the number of times I'm sitting down, there's the developers in the room, the general contractors in the room, and I made the comment, so what's cool about this is because we're going to do it faster, and that's going to decrease your general conditions. And the general contractor goes,
yeah, wait a second.
afterwards, he's like, I'm not decreasing my general conditions.
Yeah.
But the builder's risk insurance doesn't change the general contractor. The developer, the one that's spending that money, the ongoing property insurance is like, if you're not building and flipping and you're building and holding, you're going to save another 20% annually in your ongoing property insurance.
Right.
So those things, when you start factoring them in, makes this a much more affordable alternative to building than out of lumber. It's really good stuff. So what else interesting is happening with you? What else have you guys got on the horizon? What's coming out of Profab and Framecor?
Well, we're right now
that you can share.
Yeah, no problem. We build about half of the CCV churches in town.
Oh, do you
as
really?
a general contractor. We're going to have their their architect team. I'm already friends with the director of construction. They're going to come down to the factory. We're in talks of eliminating all of their block construction and replacing it with steel, which is really cool. See what else is coming up here. I'm in talks with a project in Mesa. It's really, really going to be cool. It's a 3-story parking structure. They're going to create a steel exoskeleton and then put a deck on there, and we're going to go another 4 stories after that. So it'll be a 7-story apartment complex with all the parking above grade. That'll be really cool. So I'm putting together. I'm working very closely with the developer, and so those are really cool things coming out of the ground.
And see, that's the stuff where it's really that those are the projects that I chased. I just it was like to do 4 stories on a podium or those kinds of things are really, really exciting, cool projects that gain attention.
Yes.
But you got to pull it off, and that's the win, because once you do it, and the GC the owner, the developer sees it, it's a risk. I understand. They're like, oh man, I don't know if I want to be first or not. I don't know, man. This hasn't been done. It's a big deal. So they roll the dice, and it's part of being in business anyway. And once they do it, they realize it wasn't that big of a risk. It wasn't a gamble. It was a smart business decision.
If you're any kind of a savvy business developer, you're going to see the immediate benefits of this right away. From, like you already talked about, the general conditions from the general contractor. Hey, we're going to take our schedule from 24 down to 16 months. Yeah. That's realistic. You can actually do things like that.
Absolutely.
Your general conditions come down. But as the developer, when you start looking at your capital stack and saying, okay, I need 25% equity in the deal in order to get a 75% debt. That 25% equity is at a preferred rate.
Correct.
Somebody's getting 12% or whatever it may be on that. The quicker you can pay that off, the quicker you can refinance your project, get that high expensive capital out of the way, and get into a conventional loan.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not hard for me to speak on that level to people to make them understand.
You and I look at it because we see it, and it's like we get so frustrated talking to people like, can't you see that?
Yeah. You're a construction guy. You should know finance. I'm like, hey, come on. Anyway, my point of it is that I feel in a good spot that I can speak to many different perspectives, from the general contracting side to the manufacturing side to all the benefits to the finance side,
which is extremely valuable out there.
Yeah.
It's more than just, I'm a guy that has equipment that can, and we make wall panels and we send them out and we stand them up. There's the why behind it, and the innovation that's behind it, and the way that you're innovating with the innovation, it is truly exciting to the industry. I mean, there's really going to be some fun things that we're going to see over the next 5 years.
I agree. You hit it on the head, though. It's fun for me. They're like little puzzles.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, it work's not work. I mean, I work a lot, but I enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I really do.
Absolutely. Anything else that you'd want us to know about?
As far as, well, just let me think here. I mean, nothing in particular, really. The patents and the building my factories into more of a production facility with the sheathing and other things. That's very exciting for us right now. And I think I've figured out a way too where we can retrofit other FRAMECAD dealers with very low capital to convert over to start building these types of wall systems as well. Very little, $50,000, $100,000. You can convert your factory with some A-frames and some carts and create assembly stations. And
wow, you bring up, so I'm glad you got into this.
Yeah.
You bring up such a great point, because learning how to set up your factory and learning how to utilize that space, because you will find out real quick that you don't have enough. Right. I don't care where you're at. I don't care what you're doing. You either don't have enough inside or you don't have enough outside.
Correct.
And you need a lot of lay down area outside, and you need a lot of space just to put pieces and parts and carts and a workflow.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff. Really good stuff.
It is. So as I figure that out, I'd really like to work with FRAMECAD corporately to say, hey, how can we roll this out to benefit the other dealers?
Yeah, let's discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, I think that's, I'm really interested in seeing, all ships rise with the tide, right? So I'd like to really see more of the market adapting to this, because it only is going to bring more business to guys like me anyway.
Well, you and I both know this. Now, in the industry that we're in, it gets real interesting. You have folks that, I don't want anybody to see what I'm doing. I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. And then you've got the people that I would put us in the category of is that, listen, there's going to be so much work like this out there. There's plenty for everybody.
Oh, there's plenty.
There's more work than I can do. And I'm in early. I've got my place. I'm working here. It's only going to benefit us more to have more people in it.
Correct.
I would hope that one day we're in the place that lumber is in today. And it's just PEX. When PEX first came out,
there you go.
I'm never going to get rid of copper. It's never going to replace copper. That's just never going to happen.
Okay. Where are you at?
Where's copper? Where's copper now?
Right.
So,
and look at the price of copper. I mean,
exactly.
Gosh, it's like it doesn't even make sense anymore. Right. Especially like when I was saying, if you can't teach your guys to snap a red and a blue grommet in holes that are running in conjunction with each other, you really don't have much business to
well, it's something that we haven't touched on, but I touch on often, is the labor issue. I mean, we are in such a labor problem, labor 100%. Catastrophe, disaster. I mean,
absolutely.
Trade people just don't want to, kids don't want to go out and get in. And to be able to, first of all, explain to the younger people out there, hey, this is what we do. It's in a manufacturing, and you can learn to do this and operate equipment and design and use CAD and Revit and all these different things. You can build some excitement. And then they're coming in there and they're just putting pieces or putting components together and making something out of it, and fast and easy. And they're not having to. I'm not denigrating the journeyman carpenter. I was one.
Sure. Went
through it, did all that, proud of it. But I don't know that I would get into it today.
Right.
I just don't. And this really, it's a bad phrase, but it dumbs down the process.
It does, 100%.
You can have a couple of good lead guys, journeyman guys on a project.
100%. And
infill with people and train the next generation on how to construct.
You bring up a very good point, and that was something I left out, but now that you brought it up, but that was another huge thing for me, is that, you really can create and grow your labor force in the field on the profab construction side very easily. I can have it shrink or grow because the lead guys are taking the lead. The assemblers, I call them, they don't even necessarily need a tape measure. All they need is a screw gun.
And a finger.
That's it.
If you can pull a trigger, you're good.
You're good. And then with the advent or integration with other systems that, I don't know if you're familiar with, like Aerosmith.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we were working with Aerosmith. They've become an absolute game changer for us. When we're shooting our sheathing now, I think we've increased our production 70% by using Aerosmith.
Incredible.
It's an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
We can sheath an entire structure in hours, not a day. It's significant amount of time savings. But again, you're not really dealing with like journeyman carpenters. You're dealing with guys that are really kind of respectfully, they don't need to be, anyway, I don't want to say.
They're low-skilled workers.
Yeah. In case my guys see it, though, I don't want to say.
No, and I make it a point to really push the fact that I in no way am minimizing. When we say a lower skilled worker, we mean that it's somebody that an entry level. I guess that's the better way to do it.
Is.
We can get an entry level worker into the industry and
trained quickly,
and they can increase in pay, they can increase in value. There's just so many benefits to it, other than just. It's let's put this in. You take this little piece of coil in, it spits out this at the end, and it prints on here, and you're done. Man, there's so much more to it than that.
There is. There's more to it, but I like to think that, the really heavy lift and the brain damage is done prior to it getting to the field, really.
And that's something that we haven't probably touched on enough, is it is such a design-led technology.
100%.
Man, you got to be in. Now, it's so much better to have a project that you've been able to get involved in from the beginning instead of converting one from wood to steel.
Yes.
Now, can be done many, but to be able to be in the beginning and work with the engineer and or have that engineer included in your package, where you're actually driving that and then you're sending your model via the architect to all the MEP partners, and then they're putting all of their pieces, doing all their design with your members. I tell the story. The very first pre-construction meeting, sitting at a table in a general contractor's trailer with 15 or 20 people around the table, and the plumber says to me, "Hey, what happens when one of my pipes hits your framing member?" And I said, "It doesn't." And they were like, everybody at the table, ha, ha. And I'm like, no, it doesn't, because it's a 5-story structure, and that's a structural member from there all the way to the top.
Yeah.
We don't move it. Woo! So being able to provide that in where the components are going to be exactly, they know, and they can design their plumbing. We can, if you got a shift, your floor truss, whatever, drains, all those things like you mentioned. You find that there's so much more work to be done in the beginning.
Oh, 100%.
But all that work leads to time savings in the end result.
100%.
And which is the real magic. I think that's where the magic happens.
It is, and that's why, we talked about the residential, but that's why I kind of stick with the build to rent. So you're repeating it over and over again. You're taking the actual time to figure out all of those nuances, or the larger projects like the Elkwood. It warrants us taking the time to build mock-ups, to bring in the trades, to invest the time into creating the BIM models, to looking at how these things interact and how they fit together. Single family residence, there's a lot of work to do on that. Plus, respectfully, in my line where I'm at in my life, I prefer to deal with more business to business.
Yeah.
I'm not interested really in homeowners necessarily.
Yeah.
Respectfully, it's
an emotional attachment that we can do without in the construction world.
Right. Yeah. So I've made a choice a long time ago that was not my path. So.
Well, but and I guess I'll take a spin on this. If you're in the single family rental market, you've got 4 or 5 floor plans that you're building. So not only do you have the efficiencies of learning, you're getting all that done 5 times as opposed to hundreds of times.
Right.
Your install crews, all that stuff. They learn. The joy in the multi-story, I found is that you have that same thing, but it's on a floor basis.
Yes.
Once you're off the first floor and you've figured everything out, man, it's the same all the way up.
It is.
And that's where I really won over my plumber on that particular project was walking through on the 3rd floor. I had a potential customer, and he stopped the plumber, and I was like, no. And he said something to him about it, and he goes, "You know what? The first floor was rough." And he goes, "After we got off the first floor, we had it all figured out, and it's been exactly the same all the way up."
Yeah, I have a real example of us building a Hampton out of wood, and it taking a month of floor to rough in all the electric, to when we did another project, the Holiday Inn, as the framer only,
which was one of the first CFS. of fully CFS buildings in the valley.
Yeah, absolutely. So the electricians were taking about a week a floor instead of a month. So I mean, these are real world, examples of how these efficiencies are being created through the cold form steel process.
And people are learning. Yeah, the cold form steel is simply the driving force, has been the catalyst that is pushing these other industries, the MEP industries, to find ways to also do things faster and take advantage of the efficiencies that come in the system.
100%.
Awesome. Well, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, my email is joe@profab.build. That's PROFAB.BUILD.
Okay.
That's my primary email. I answer both company emails from there.
You're on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, I do need to do some social media.
Okay.
Something I haven't really focused on it. And again, my clients are pretty large, and I'm not actively marketing myself. So, but I need to get a better social media footprint. So.
Well, you'll get there. Yeah. Hopefully this will kind of give you a shove.
I think so.
Okay, perfect. Appreciate you being on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like to always kind of throw this out there at the end. You and I both, we've built it the old way.
Yes.
Yeah. Now it's time to build it better.
Absolutely. Build it better. Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
I like it. Thank you.